Hey guys, this is Allie with Tip B, and today we're going to look at how to swap out the glass or digitizer on an iPhone 3G or 3GS. It's a relatively easy repair. The repair is the same for both, but the part is different. So depending on whether you're fixing a 3G or a 3GS, you'll need to buy the right front. The cable for the digitizer is different. I order these complete assemblies. You can order just the digitizer, just the glass. I order this, it comes complete with the home button. It's a little bit more expensive, but it cuts your time in half. You don't have to pick glass out. So I will link to a supplier that I recommend for purchasing these from, and you can get that link inside the article. What you're going to need to perform this repair is a 00 Phillips screwdriver, same thing we used for the iPhone 4 battery mod. That's for your dot connector screws and a couple screws inside. A plastic pry tool, and a suction cup. I have a spudger and a razor blade sitting here, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. Typically what you're going to do first is you're going to remove the two dot connector screws right down here, and this is the same for a 3G or a 3GS, actually all iPhone models except for the first gen. You're going to have these screws. And of course you're going to want to make sure the device is powered off before you do any of this. So you're going to remove these two and set them aside. And again, sometimes the screws are different sizes, so keep them separate and remember where you pulled them from. Okay. After you remove those two, typically what you're going to do is take your suction cup and place it above the home button, and you're going to pry up. And this is why I have these two tools sitting here. If this spider's towards the bottom, you're probably not going to be able to get a grip on this with a suction cup, so you're going to actually have to pry this up. If the crack was up here and you could get a grip, you could pry this off and you'd hold your hand over like this because your cables are up here, you don't want to tear them. You just want the bottom to come up. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take just a spudger tool, and I'm going to come under here around the edge, and I'm going to try to work this up a little bit underneath the gasket. And you can see it's popping up a little. Just try to kind of stay away from the home button. Normally the easiest way to get underneath these is right on the side. And once I have a corner underneath here, sometimes if I need to, I'll grab another pry tool and stick it on the other side. You can see that this is starting to come up right here. So I'm just going to pop this up and run my tool along the bottom. So now I've got the bottom off. You don't want to lift this straight off because you've got 3 cables up here that you need to disconnect. So I'm going to open this carefully. And this, if you can zoom in a little bit here, you've got your LCD cable right here, which is your number 1, your digitizer cable, which is your number 2, and then you're going to have another cable underneath there. Take your plastic pry tool right here. I have one that has ends like this. Depending on which one you buy, anything will really work. Just use something non-conductive. So first I'm going to pry up the number 2 cable with my tool, and that's my digitizer. And then I'm going to come over here and pry up my number 1 cable. And then underneath here, there's a number 3 cable. This controls your proximity sensor and a couple other sensors in the phone. So you can see there's a little clasp right here. If you pull this straight out, you're going to break that clasp on the logic board. So this little white clip, take your pry tool, and you're going to want to pop that up. Then this cable should slide right out. And that's how you disassemble that. Next, you're going to need to remove the LCD from here. Considering you're just replacing the glass, the LCD is inside of here. So you want to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws from this. Okay, so we've removed all 6 screws that hold the LCD into the digitizer. To remove the LCD, there are little breaks here in the track. I find it best to just kind of pry it up from there. You'll see that this kind of separates. Just pull up one side and then work the other side loose. And you can slide it right out. There's a little clip you have to slide it underneath right here. So it just pops out like that. And that's your LCD. And you're going to want to put that into the new display. So all you do is, if you bought the whole assembly like this, and you might see that some of these will have like a shield on the inside, and that's pretty much to prevent dust from getting under there. So you're going to want to remove that plastic piece, which is just a protector. So depending on where you got your part from, it may or may not have that on the inside. So to put this on the inside, all you're going to do, slide that underneath this clip right here. As you can see, mine actually came with an additional screw in here. Some suppliers will include another screw. It's just an extra. So I'm going to pop that out. And you're going to want to make sure there's no dust on the LCD. Just don't push down on it too hard. And just slide it under that clip. And then once you have it lined up with the top, you just snap it right down in there. And you'll know it's lined up right if your screw hole's lined up. So I'm going to replace these 6 screws that I took out the first time. Okay, so we've put our LCD screws back in, all 6. You should count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now that the LCD is in there, we just need to reattach this. Basically how you're going to do this is, I found it the easiest to hold up these 2 cables. And this cable right here, if you can see, there's a little bit of a color difference. The gold part at the bottom needs to be seated all the way inside that little tab for the number 3. So the easiest way to do this that I've found is to kind of bend it up a little bit, and then once you sit it in there, kind of wiggle it back and forth a little bit until it's in there to where you can't see the light gold anymore. Then just push that little tab down, the one that you unclipped. The next cable will be what was the number 2. You'll notice on replacements they don't typically have the numbers like the Apple parts do. So all you're going to do is kind of feel around on the logic board, and you should hear it click into place. And sometimes these are a little bit tricky if the cables are a little stiffer. So that one's in there, and then comes the LCD cable, which is number 1. So you pretty much just do it in reverse order. Once that's in there, drop the top down, make sure nothing is sticking up. You always want to put the top in first. So you kind of want to seat the top in there and drop it back down. And then your bottom should just clip right back in there. And then you just need to replace your dot connector screws, and you should be good to go. And just wait for it to boot up. One thing I do like to test is, once the phone boots up, place a test call and place your finger over these sensors to make sure they work. If they are working and the digitizer works, you're good to go, and that's how to replace the glass on an iPhone 3G and 3GS.